UFC 310, last pay-per-view of the year, December 7th, fighting on the card, Vicente Luque. Vicente, man, how we doing like a month out?
Doing good, doing good. I'm excited for this fight. It's a big one, and training camp has been going great. So definitely very excited.
And I want to start with the fight because it's not every day I get to interview someone that's fighting a Diaz bro, let alone Nick Diaz, owner of Nick Diaz Army. So is there any bit of aura attached to this or legend status? Like, what are your thoughts on Nick Diaz?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think he's a legend. Has always been, one of the top fighters. Not a guy that became a champion, but still a guy, that fought against the best. Fought Anderson Silva, fought GSP, fought legends, and a guy that as before I was in the UFC, I watched his fights. I already liked his style, the way that he went in there, always looking to finish his opponent. So it's definitely a guy that for me is one of the legends, and now I get to face him. So it's great.
And I don't know how much you're on Twitter or social medias to see fans talking about fights, but this one, when it was announced, a lot of fans were like, "Hey, I would rather see Luque Chiesa 2, and I would rather see Tony Ferguson and Nick Diaz." Like, people are saying you're gonna blow him away. He's washed. Like, what are your thoughts when people say all this when you see this talk?
Man, I do get it why they say it. He didn't look his best in his last fight. Although I watched that fight again, and I do think it was much tougher than what people watched. If you go there and watch it again, Nick was fighting.
Mhm.
Before he got finished, he was putting on a good fight. But there is the age. There's a lot of things that go against Nick. So I do get that, and at the same time, I know that I'm a killer, and I know what I plan to go in there and do. So, not to say that people are completely wrong. Definitely, it's not the best fight for Nick to get back. But hey, I think it's an exciting fight. I know what I bring. I know what if he's at his best, what he's gonna bring, and I think that's just a great combination. Obviously, I think a lot of people want him to get a fight where they can feel like maybe he's gonna come out as a winner, but he's always fought tough guys. It's the UFC is never gonna give him an easy fight, and definitely I'm not an easy fight, and my plan is to go out there and finish him. And hey, I get to beat another legend. For me, it's all good.
And how do you look at this fight? This is a cliche question, but how do you look at this fight in terms of the styles? Like, what kind of fight do you think fans are in for?
I think it's going to be, a striking battle. Obviously, we're both great grapplers. We both have, a high level jujitsu. But I don't know. I think that it can play at some point. Maybe, I heard him and he for some reason wants to maybe pull guard or get me down. Maybe I see an opening and I try to get him down and get a sub. He's not an easy guy to submit, but I still have, a strong submissions. Maybe that's something that I can explore. But when I look at it, I feel like the best way I could fight him is on the striking. And I think that he's gonna see that as well. He also is gonna want to go out there and try to, just put his boxing against me and really test out who's the best striker, who's the more versatile fighter on the stand-up, who can hit harder, who can take more damage. And that's just, our style. So when I look at it, that's what I see the fight going down to. But at the same time, we're very skilled everywhere. But I'm going for a finish. I am sure that I can finish him, be it striking or grappling. I do. That's the plan. Finish him.
And then I talked to you, this was a while ago. This was, I don't remember if it was at UFC 265 or something like that, but I talked to you briefly at a media day. And where I'm going with this is you were on a four fight winning streak when that happened. Now, 2-3 in your last five. Like, what does that do for your motivation heading into this fight and the rest of your career?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely this has been one of those challenging moments in the UFC. Ever since I got to the UFC, I had a great run. I had some losses in the middle, but still was always picking up a lot of good finishes and moving forward. And now I kind of hit a period where I had to reinvent some things, understand other things that I was dealing with, but at the same time, that these are struggles that I have dealt with in the past. Before the UFC, I had a few losses, a few bad moments, and the truth is that at the end, this just motivates me, to overcome it. My life has always been challenging in many different ways, and overcoming has always been what I've looked for. I know that God is on my side, that He's always guiding me through all this, and is always looking to just to show me and to make me grow through every process. So that's what I try to keep my mind in. Obviously I do want to get a big win. I do want to get to that title as soon as possible. But then again, if I get to that title fight and I'm not ready, it's worth nothing. So I just trust the process. I think that I am being forged in this process, getting stronger and stronger, and just a better fighter every fight, win or lose. And that's how I get through it.
And you just said your goal is still to become the champion. I believe you're number 14 right now, not far away from that at all. So, how do you see this welterweight title picture playing out? Like, I guess more specifically, Belal versus Shavkat. How do you see that fight going?
Yeah, that's a very interesting fight. I train with Shavkat. He's
Hmm.
right here. He's just got here. I think maybe like a few days ago. I got to train with him Friday last week, and man, and I fought Belal two
Hmm.
times, so I kind of know these both of the guys, and I have spent some time with both of them, and I just feel it's a tricky fight. Belal, I don't see him as the best in anything, but he's really good at mixing everything up, at going inside that octagon and finding your flaws and just capitalizing on that, finding a way to beat every single opponent. And that's something that is very hard to deal with. But with that said, when you come to Shafkat, you see a guy that can submit people, can knock out people. He can grapple, he can wrestle, he can strike. He has cardio. So it's also a guy that is really good everywhere. So it's a tricky fight. When I see that, I think that Belal has the experience. He has more fights. He has more time in the UFC. He is the champion right now, really confident. He has had more 5-round battles. So I think that he definitely does have that on his favor. But Shavkat, is a guy that even though he's had a few fights in the UFC and he has a lot of fights to watch, you can't really read him that much. He's a guy that has a lot of tools to still show, a lot of weapons to show. So, on the other hand, Shavkat has that unpredictability and that hunger. That the young guy that is up and coming and is hungry to get that title. So for me, usually I'm not like this, but this is one of those that I wouldn't put my money in any of them. And I do think that Shavkat can surprise everybody. He's really, really skilled.
And just training with, Shavkat, Killcliff in general. I see that Nasruddin Imavov is down there right now. Like, how's preparation been for this one? Like, any new bodies you've been working with compared to normal?
I mean, I'm always working with everybody here, and we definitely all the time we have new guys here working for different fights. That's what I love about Killcliff. We always get to work with all the guys in here and really get a diversity, in training. That's really important for me to evolve my own game. And for this fight, it hasn't been different. As I said, Shafkat just got here. I think through the going to fight week, we're gonna train a lot together. Definitely get some rounds together. That's gonna help me out a lot. And I've been working with Sato. He's a southpaw guy, very good guy from Japan. Yusaku, another guy from Japan, very good southpaw. Andre Fialho, and a few guys, that give me that different kind of like they kind of can give me some looks on my opponent. Sometimes Jason Jackson is another guy that is great to work with, and he even kind of really emulates Nick. He's trying to slap me, talking, trash to me. So it's kind of things that really just get me ready and also kind of bring that fight environment for training camp. So it's been great.
And a couple weeks ago, a video of you and Kevin Lee wrestling after practice went viral. Do you guys always wrestle like that? Was this a special day?
No, I mean we're always wrestling hard, but then there are some days that they'll bring competition, kind of try to make it more competitive, and it's always nice, that's something that our sport is about winning, is about competing, and we gotta learn how to deal with it. Sometimes we're gonna lose, sometimes we're gonna win, but either way, the next day we got more competition. So I cannot be too excited when I win because I gotta win again. And if I lose, hey, I gotta, get my game back and be ready to go back there and win. So it's something very good that they do over here, just making us get used to that competition all the time.
And not looking past Nick Diaz, but in terms of 2025, I guess like what goals do you have for yourself next year? Is there anybody you still want to fight? I know me being a Philly guy, you and Sean Brady is a fight I would still like to see. What are your thoughts on next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are a lot of options. I think this fight is a big fight for me, not only uh, looking to get a win, but looking to get a big win against a legend like Nick. I think it's going to set me up for many good things at 2025. And then, like I said, we have so many options. I mean, I have a list of rematches, that I have to get done. I fought Leon, I fought Belal, I fought Wonder Boy, Jeff Neal. So I have a lot of guys that I could be looking for rematches, and also other guys that are new, in the division. Sean Brady is one of those guys that he has been looking great. I would love a fight against him. Jack Della Maddalena, another young and up and coming, prospect, another guy that I would love to fight. So right now it's hard to really focus on one fight. Obviously, the fight that I have to focus is the one that I have in December, and that's where my eyes are at. But I think 2025 is going to be very interesting, and the plan is to get to the top, to get to that top five, top three, and challenge for the title.
And I assume you watched UFC 308 last week.
Yeah, yeah.
When you see, Max Holloway, the Invincible, finally get knocked out, when you see Robert Whitaker get his jaw crushed and his teeth pushed back, I know you yourself have had a brain injury in a fight. Like, when you see all this, what makes you be like, you know what, whatever, I don't care. I'm still going to go in there, fight. It doesn't bother me.
It's crazy. When I look, I mean, when I saw Max Holloway, that was surprising because even though as fighters we know that, hey, we're not much different than you and than all the other people. Maybe we just got tougher for training so many years, but we're still human. We're still break. And to see a guy that everybody thought would never even get knocked down get knocked out. To see what happened to Whitaker, that was a crazy injury. It's things that kind of just reminds us that at the end of the day we are human, and we're trying to do something that is extreme to a level where sometimes it is very risky. But at the same time, I think that that's what is so cool about it. Really setting out to have the discipline, to have the will to overcome all these things, and to show everybody that we can do this. That we are capable of so much more, and just the discipline, the hard work, all this put together. You get these great fights, these amazing stories. I think that's what really motivates us. It has always been a big motivation for me to not only bring the fans what they want as fighting, but also to show them what we can as human and as people, what we can achieve, and why we go through this. Why would I work so hard? I look at my family, I look at the people around me. I want the best for them. I want to give them more, and that motivates me to really have the discipline to go through the diet, to go through training. I mean, training is for me it is much more stressful to my body than fighting.
I bet, yeah.
Fighting sometimes I'll get hurt, but even that is not that bad. Now training every day, you got to get hurt a little bit and then recover and train the next day and the next day and the next day. So it's something that there is no money that gets us through that. The money is part of it and it's good, but if we didn't love what we do and if we didn't have like a bigger purpose, it's just not possible.
Modern day warriors, am I right?
Yep, that's what it
100%, man.
is.
And Vicente, last thing I want to do here, I did this with Matt Frivola recently with New York, but I would love to do a Brazilian Mount Rushmore of UFC fighters. So I'm kind of
Okay.
putting you on the spot, but if you could give me one at a time, four
Yep.
Brazilian fighters that belong to represent Brazil's UFC Mount Rushmore, I would love that. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, it does. Let's do it.
So give me your first name, who belongs on the Brazilian UFC Mount
First name's
Rushmore.
got to be Vitor Belfort.
Ooh, okay.
The youngest UFC champion. He was back in the days at 19 years old. He was a champion, and for Brazil, he's a huge name. He's a huge name, like anywhere, in the US or whatever, MMA related. But in Brazil, he's one of those guys that really made a difference. And personally, was a guy that inspired me back in the day. And now I get to, I am friends with him. I see him multiple times a week. We go to the same church. So it's great to have that relationship, learn a lot from him. And he's got to be there, a guy, one of the best finishers ever. Very exciting fighter, a beast. Right after that, I'm gonna go with Anderson Silva.
Love it.
Yeah, Anderson Silva is, you know, he is the John Jones, but of the generation past that,
Yep.
before that. So he was for me at that time when I was starting to watch MMA, starting to want to have a career. He seemed unbeatable. He seemed like the guy that never was going to lose a fight, and had a great career, very skilled. For me, like a guy that you see guys with the skill, like I don't know, Adesanya and guys like this. Anderson had that way back, already. So it's one of the best. Right after that, one of the most like exciting fighters for me, a guy that really inspired me and I was always a fan of, and just his fighting style excites me is Shogun.
Love Shogun
So
Rua.
Mauricio Shogun, I loved watching him in Pride and then watching him in the UFC. A guy that held both titles. He had UFC title and Pride title. So one of those few guys to have that. And then the last one, let's see.
A lot of good picks left.
I know. That's hard. I'm gonna go with Big Nog.
Okay.
Big Nog, yeah, he's a legend. Another guy that was, had the two titles, UFC and Pride, and had that legendary fight with Bob Sapp. Showed everybody, what it is to really overcome adversity so many times, in his career. And also a guy that I have met personally. He works for the UFC. He's a great ambassador in Brazil, supporting all the up and coming fighters, even the fighters that are still not in the UFC. He's working, to give them an opportunity in the Contender Series and all these kind of things. So it's a guy that really, really not only had a great career while he was fighting, but now fights for the sport, fights for the new generation. So that's something I really appreciate, and that's my Mount Rushmore.
I love it. I love that you went a little OG. You got Antonio
Yeah,
Nogueira, Shogun Rua, Vitor Belfort, and Anderson Silva. So I love the
yeah,
mountain. Do you want to hear mine real quick?
yeah. Let's do it.
Mine's a little more cliche. I got Alex Pereira, Anderson
Okay,
Silva, Jose Aldo, and Charles Oliveira, which is
okay. It's a good one. It's a good
just a
one.
little more
You're
new school,
you're
right?
yeah, yeah.
But hey,
But
man,
but my Mount Rushmore is that way because many of those guys that you said, I don't think would exist if mine wasn't up there first.
yep,
You
I
know,
I
so we
agree
got to
completely.
remember those guys that suffered before us.
Hey, Brazil, I don't know if there's a country that has more UFC stars that go back to
Yeah,
my childhood. So
yeah,
there's no
it's
wrong
crazy.
answers here. But Vicente, man, thank you for the time. Before I get you out of
Thank you.
here, anything you want to say to all your fans?
Man, just thank always the support. And hey, December 7th, it's gonna be a fun night. It's gonna be a war, and I'm there. I'm gonna face that Nick Diaz army. And it's not gonna be a good night for them, but it's gonna be a good night for us. Let's go and have fun.
Vicente Luque versus Nick Diaz Army. I love it. December 10th or December 7th, UFC 310. Vicente, thank you so much. Best of
Thank
luck,
you.
best of skill.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Let's go.